Ever since the original chapter and the first episode of My Hero Academia, Boku no Hero Academia, there's something that we've always known, which is that Izuku Midoriya, the main protagonist of the story, is eventually going to become the next symbol of peace. The very same title as All Might. But what people fail to ask is just how does Izuku Midoriya reach that #1 spot? How does he become the next symbol of peace? And that is precisely what we are going to be talking about today. The manner in which Izuku Midoriya becomes the symbol of peace is actually a topic that matters a lot for the story. It is something that should be discussed more than once, I think, throughout the run of My Hero Academia's story. One thing that immediately pops into people's heads when they think he's gonna become the symbol of peace is he's gonna be apprehending the most amount of villains, he's gonna be saving the most amount of people, and that's simply going to push him to the point where he is most recognized as a hero, and he's going to simply become the symbol of peace through that, simply by sticking out and becoming famous enough as a hero, kind of like All Might. But me personally, I kind of want to challenge that idea by saying I don't think that's going to be the case. I do not think he's simply going to be doing a repeated version of what All Might did in order to become so well known. I think even just stopping Shigaraki in itself wouldn't really be enough to consider that to be worthy of him becoming the symbol of peace. Now, one idea that I want to bring up in this video is actually one that was mentioned by one of my friends. I cannot remember who it was, but I do know it wasn't me. However, it is a fantastic idea as to how Izuku Midoriya may actually end up becoming the symbol of peace, nearing the end of the story, of course. The idea in question is, imagine at some point in the future, on its way to the end of the series, as I said, the world is completely overwhelmed by Shigaraki and the underworld, you know, just the villains in general. It's gonna be a very villain-controlled place. Kind of like way back with All for One, as was mentioned, except it will be on a much more extreme scale. As for how the villains end up taking control isn't really important. The important part is that we imagine the villains being in control, kind of like how heroes control the society right now. But you turn it around and the heroes are the underdogs, whereas the villains are just superior in numbers and whatnot. Who knows exactly? We don't really know all of the factors just yet, assuming this even ends up happening. And what remains of the UA Academy, Shiketsu High, you know, the schools that we have been introduced to, essentially, they have to try and reclaim society from the villains. This would probably be controlled by Shigaraki at the end of the series, I believe, because Shigaraki is the main antagonist of the story, so it only makes sense for it to be Shigaraki that would be at the very top of the villains nearing the end of the series. Now, as for Deku, or Izuku Midoriya, he's obviously the main protagonist, so he is going to have some kind of special moment at the end of the story, no matter how the story turns out. And this would obviously still be the case if the villains are in control. Izuku Midoriya would still have to be doing something very spectacular in order to turn things back around, making him the ultimate hero, the most worthy of becoming the symbol of peace. But taking back control wouldn't be really enough when you think about it, because even if you manage to tip the balance so that you're in favor over the villains, there's something else to think about, which is things are still going to be in absolute chaos. There's not gonna be order, there's not gonna be any level of security apart from wherever you can spare manpower. You know, you have to be able to rebuild society, you have to be able to build security, order in general, and you also have to physically rebuild, because no doubt if such a scenario happened, there's going to be some kind of battle that decides such a result. It is not just gonna happen by random. You could potentially dumb it down to a war arc at the very end of the story, but I don't really want to go there because I really hope it's not gonna be a war arc. And knowing Horikoshi's writing style, I honestly don't think he's gonna go down that route, but even if he does, I'm positive that he could easily write it in such a way that we would enjoy it to its fullest. Now, a case like this, as I mentioned, Deku, among every other hero taking back society from the villains, would absolutely give Izuku Midoriya the massive credit credit boost needed to where even All Might's efforts will pale before it. But make no mistake, even All Might's efforts will be remembered. It's just that Izuku Midoriya, he needs to do something different. He needs to do something that makes whatever All Might did small. He needs to do something even greater, otherwise he's not gonna become the greatest hero ever. If that was the case, he would simply become the greatest active hero or the greatest hero alive. He wouldn't become the greatest hero of all time. And that is basically what he's implying at the beginning of the story, that no one before him has been on his level before. Meaning that he's either gonna be extremely powerful to the point where no one can touch him, or he's gonna do something so big that we can't even fathom the amount of support from the public that he's going to be getting. Now, thinking about such a scenario, there's one good example that I can think about, and I'm gonna have to go extremely off track now and say, think The Lion King. I know what you're thinking, it's crazy, right? But think The Lion King, the first movie, the ending of the first movie, where Scar pretty much takes control of the Pride Lands and Simba returns after being away for a long time, and he has to reclaim what's been fucked all the way to Shit Valley. That would be a pretty good parallel of what I think might be Deku's thing. What would be his moment in order to reclaim everything and to become the new symbol of peace around the story's end. But it is important to remember that it's not going to be Deku's work alone. He's going to need help by everyone else from UA Academy, from Shiketsu High, from the third school, cannot quite remember what it's called, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's gonna be a team effort. The only thing is gonna be that Deku is gonna be taking charge essentially. He's gonna be at the front line. He's going to be the one to deliver the final blow, most likely on Shigaraki or whoever happens to be at the top. But as I said, we can pretty much guarantee that if there's one villain that's gonna be at the top at the end of the story, it's gonna be Shigaraki and no one else. Potentially All For One, but I honestly do not see that being the case. One thing that I think will be the case is that Bakugo is going to be heavily involved as well. Almost equally to that of Izuku Midoriya, but seeing as it is in fact Izuku's story, he will inevitably get the final moment of triumph. But the reason why I think Bakugo is going to be as involved as I think is because he is the secondary main character. They're both protagonists of the story, however, seeing as Izuku Midoriya is the main protagonist, that puts him just one slice above Bakugo. And whatever act Izuku gets at the very end, which Bakugo misses out on, is going to be completely plus ultra. Anyway, that is all for today's discussion. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I had tons of fun making it. I would love to know what you guys think down below in the comments about Izuku becoming the symbol of peace. Do you think he's gonna do something along the lines that I've been discussing in this video, or do you think he's simply going to brute force his way to the top? And as always, if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new to my channel. This has been Chaotic Plus, and remember, Toga is waifu, Toga is laifu.